Hi, and welcome to another episode of Honest AF Show with me, Daniela Clark.
And me, Barbara Ann Wild.
And we have a guest today. This is so exciting.
We are
Thank you
very
so
excited.
much. So we have Laura Rhodes Levin, who is a therapist, right? You're a
Yep.
marriage and family therapist.
I am.
And you founded an anxiety clinic called The Missing Piece.
Yes.
And you authored this book, who you
Which
so
we're
generously
so
gave
excited
Barb and
about.
I.
Yes.
Yay.
And we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, it's really my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and what this book is about, because, well, we have so much to talk about, but, you know, Barb and I talk about this all the time. We're, you know, on this show. And one of the commonalities that we have, and I think a lot of our listeners have, is we're in our 50s and we you know, have both been
Vast.
going through menopause and sometimes, you know, life doesn't really pan out the way you had envisioned it to pan out. And there's a lot, and not only for women, but men also go through life changes. And with that can come a lot of anxiety,
100%.
and depression. And we'd love to talk to you about what you do and what this book is about.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, anxiety, especially in the last decade, has just been so ramped up. And with technology, anxiety gets so ramped up. And I love that you talk about menopause because it's this sort of underlying thing that not a lot of people talk about. But I think for the first time, I started feeling, I wasn't sure if it was grief brain or if it was menopause brain, but things just fall out of my head like they never,
Yeah.
ever used to.
Yeah.
And I usually carry an electric fan for my hot flashes.
I hear you.
But the reason I got into this work is I was just born with anxiety. I with the research that I've done now, I realized I inherited a lot of it. But I was 4 and I thought there was a bear in the closet. I couldn't sleep at 4 years old. And I found a lot of solace in drugs and alcohol for many years. But I've been sober for 18 years. And
you.
I feel like, and I grew up in the entertainment industry, and I had a heart attack when I was 37.
Really?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Wow.
And I say that my heart attacked my brain because on paper, my life looked very glamorous and very good, but inside,
Wow.
I was so unhappy. And so, in this process of sort of figuring myself out, if you will, I've learned that they don't teach us some of the most essential things, which is self-care and self-soothing. You know, you mentioned I'm a therapist, and I think I'm a good therapist. I think all my clinicians are good therapists, but that's just such a small part of taking care of yourself, especially with deep anxiety, depression, trauma, or more importantly, before you get to that state. If your dog is freaked out, you don't say, "What triggered you, Fluffy? Let's talk about it." You're
Right.
like, "Oh, let's soothe this animal."
Yeah.
And we're not taught how to soothe ourselves.
Right.
So my clinic is 10,000 square feet. Most people come from 9 hours a week to 30 hours a week. Luckily, insurance covers a lot of that. And
So it's like an outpatient.
yes, it's an intensive outpatient
Okay.
or partial hospitalization.
Okay.
But when you walk in, it's very different. We've got fountains, we've got nature. People learn how to deal with their anxiety through music therapy, through art therapy, massage, aromatherapy, Reiki, nutrition, neurofeedback. So we get into the technical sciences where we work with an electroencephalogram and your brain and pulse electronic magnetic field therapy, which is so hard to say. So we just say PEMF. And then, regular talk therapy and group therapy. So it's about one, learning how to calm yourself down and keep yourself in a state of peace and not be on call to everyone in your life's demands and every world demand.
So is
How
that
to
how
love
you
yourself.
you had the heart attack, and is that when you got into your field, or
It took me a little while. So first, I had the heart attack at 37. I
That's
got
incredible.
How
sober
did you
at
know you were having
37.
a heart attack?
You know, the movie All That Jazz saved my life. Do you know the movie
Really?
All That
Yeah, of
Jazz with Roy
course.
Scheider?
Yes.
So it was the day after Christmas, and I was at home with my ex-husband, and I just didn't feel right. And by the end of the night, I felt like Roy Scheider did in his second heart attack in the movie. And I just
Mm.
called 911 and I was like, I'm having a heart attack. And they're
Wow.
like, and
And who would ever think they're having a heart attack at 36?
right? No. But I just knew. And it's not the way people described it. For me, it wasn't like an elephant sitting on your chest. If anything, it felt like there was an elephant pulling from the inside.
Wow.
And I just felt
Wow.
like there was no blood in my body. I just felt
Uh-huh.
white and sweaty.
Wow.
And I knew my husband would not wake up for the paramedics. He would be asleep. So I called my cousin. I'm like, call my house and wake Craig up and get him to open the door. And the ambulance was there so fast. And by the time they called, they were banging on the door, and he's like, no, nobody called 911. And I'm in the back of the house going, yes. And they just like threw him
Oh my
aside. And
goodness.
Wow. I would have thought I was having a panic attack or
Right.
something. Yeah.
those I had my whole life.
Oh, okay.
Oh, up until that point, you had
Oh
already.
yeah, I ran out of emergency rooms at 15 years old, and I mean,
Wow.
I had real anxiety issues my whole life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing that you were able to recognize that.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You were having anxiety since you were a little girl, and then did your parents try to get you treatment for it? Did you speak about it? Did you
No,
like
it was the 70s. People
Right.
were
Right.
having kids on
Yeah.
the side, you know. It's like,
understood?
my chore was
Yeah.
make sure the ice tray was full, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So no, if I pushed the panic button a lot in our house,
Okay.
but my mom was also, you know, she's a lot in this book, and she gave me a lot of beautiful, beautiful gifts. But she was also raised very neurotically, and
Yeah.
she was a very hysterical mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so her coping skills were transferred onto me, which is just
Got it.
drama and hysteria. And I
Mm.
am so allergic to drama. I can't.
I
I feel the
love
same
that.
way.
Life's
Yeah.
Allergic
just
to
short and
drama.
so
Yeah.
am I.
I feel the same way. I hate it.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
drains your life force.
it does, and it's just such a waste. It really is, along with guilt and shame and all that bullshit.
Yeah, and we talked about this in our last episode. Barb and I talked about how a lot of people's anxieties and depression, especially with women, can trigger autoimmune diseases
Oh my
because
gosh.
you know the stress hormone that you release all the time. So it's so important to take care of yourself and to acknowledge or to like understand what you're going through. Because for me, I've always been a really happy person. I've always been happy. I've always been, you know, but I am a people pleaser. I do like to keep the peace. I'm a peacekeeper. I grew up in a really a tumultuous household, a lot of fighting with my parents and a lot of divorce and, you know, back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And I also grew up in Israel during wartime, and there's a lot of ancestral trauma as well that goes on with me. And just recently, with all the events in the news, with you know, not just like everything that happened during October 7th, really, really, really triggered me. And
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's been very difficult to deal with. And but on top of that, menopause and just the changes in my life and things not going the way I've expected them to go, because we all make plans, right? We all make all these plans. And sometimes life just kind of throws you a curveball and you're not going to do what you thought you were going to do.
Yeah.
And then there's menopause and there's hot flashes and the decrease in estrogen and forgetfulness and the aches and the pains in your body that kind of get you down. And for the first time in my life, a couple of years ago, I had a panic attack. And I've never had panic attacks before.
Okay.
And I had a panic attack and I thought I was going to die. And I was like, what is happening right now? And I met through my group that I work with now that I volunteer with, I met a trauma specialist.
Great.
And she shared some tools with us on how to kind of like calm yourself down when you're having a panic attack or an anxiety attack. And I think that is so important because sometimes if you're like me, where you've never experienced that before and that happens, it is the scariest thing in the world because you don't know.
People do think they're dying.
Yeah, you think you're dying. You think you can't breathe. You think you're suffocating. You don't know what is happening to you, but you are out of control in that moment.
You want to run and you can't move.
And your heart attack felt completely different from that?
Totally different.
That's so interesting.
There's no panic in a heart attack. It's just stillness. But I want to go back, if I could, to what you were saying earlier about I forget the word you used, immune disorders.
Yeah, autoimmune disorders.
But a lot of my patients come to me because they've been through every doctor, and doctors have finally said, we've tried everything. And that is not just one kind of doctor. Our stomach, IBS, all those colitis, all those tummy issues are from excessive cortisol and lack of dopamine, all that stuff, migraines, heart issues. So when we don't listen to, people pleasing, you say you're a peacekeeper.
Yeah.
What we don't often realize is we're keeping the peace for everyone else, but inside we are not at peace.
Right.
Exactly.
And so at a certain point you go, okay, you guys keep your peace and I'm going to take care of me. And it's not selfish. It's self-love. It's self-preservation. And it's saving your energy for the people you can really help. So a lot of times when we're ignoring what just doesn't feel right, that takes away our inner peace, our bodies eventually go, stop, I'm done. I have stopped working. You're not sleeping, you're overeating, you're undereating. Our physical bodies manifested. And thank God we're finally understanding that mental health precedes physical health. That when you're okay mentally, your physical body has a whole other chance. And with depression causes inflammation and vice versa. When people, when you have a cold, it produces mucus, it produces depression. Mucus produces depression, and it's biological because the universe doesn't want you going out and spreading your germs. So our bodies naturally depress themselves. So they're like, I have a cold, I don't feel like doing anything. And you crawl in bed and you don't infect the world. Same thing when you have inflammation in your body. Your body develops a depression so that you don't move and hurt and further injure your body. So it's all so connected. It's so awesome.
So we switched up our set a little bit so that Barb and I can see you both together. So if you're watching this on YouTube and wondering what the sudden changes were, we realized that we had it set up a little wonky. But anyways, okay, so let's carry on. We were talking about how cortisol and how the stress hormone can really affect
your body. And
your body,
you know how our bodies speak to us through depression when we have aches, we have pains, we're inflamed or we're sick, and we're not supposed to be spreading our germs.
Right.
And that's also stops or decreases the production of dopamine and GABA and serotonin, all the feel good stuff.
Right.
So
So I think what my question was right before we switched our setup was I love when I remember things because I hardly
Yay!
remember anything. But my question was, what are some of the tools that you can teach our listeners to help cope? So when you're having like a panic attack or anxiety, like what can you really do to kind of snap yourself out of it? Like for me, I've learned a few tools from a trauma specialist because sometimes I'll get really bad anxiety.
Yeah.
And I can figure out ways to kind of calm myself down. And most of the time it's distraction. So it's kind of pulling myself out of it.
It's so interesting too that we call it distraction because it's really being in the moment. If I wish I could change the word mindfulness to sensefulness, because mindfulness makes us think we have to use our mind, and we don't. We need to use our bodies to get out of things. When you're in Hawaii, you don't care about your taxes
Yeah.
because it smells pretty and it looks pretty and it sounds nice and it feels good on your skin and things taste delicious.
Yeah.
And all your senses are engaged, right? So
Right.
I go to your senses. Come to your senses is a phrase I want to reintroduce. It's not just a guy slapping a woman around in a black and white movie.
Yeah.
I'll have people in my office use a lavender inhaler. I mean, lavender is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much in essential oils, but smell that, look at the fireplace. Let's put on some good music. Focus on those three things: the music, the fire, the smell. And then your brain can't do that many things at the same time. So when you occupy it with your senses and you bring yourself to where you are, you're probably okay. The other thing is knowledge, right? Like you were saying, I'm having a panic attack. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm going to die. And I use this example. If women didn't know what their periods were, and once a month they just bled profusely and wanted to cry and punch people, they would think they were dying literally every month, like, oh my God, I'm dying.
Yeah.
But it's the gift of life. So we smile and we take Midol or whatever, and we know it will pass. Same thing with a panic attack. Same thing with anxiety. When you know what's happening to you, the worst thing that will happen to you in a panic attack is also the best thing. You'll faint and your body will reset itself and you'll wake up normal. So I like to tell people, just if you're having a panic attack, lay down someplace, get yourself close to the ground so that if you do faint, you're going to be physically fine. And then once you're in a safe place, get a hold of music or take yourself on a visual. Our minds are the best travel agents in the world. And you just close your eyes and think of the house you grew up in or your favorite place to be, and picture all the senses that are going on in those places. If you're at Disneyland, look at Splash Mountain, taste the corn dog, and and it's weird that we have to distract ourselves from we call that distraction, but it's not. It's the present moment. You need to be in the moment you're in. The distraction is the panicky thoughts that are predicting doom. So I call anxiety a liar that predicts doom. And you get caught up in that trap, and you're not anywhere near where you are. You are in some imagined horrible future.
Yeah.
That probably won't happen.
Yeah.
In your practice, where is there a role for medication, or is it everything that you teach before medication?
It's a combination, right?
Okay.
So since menopause, I am so grateful for Prozac. There's a time and a place. One of the chapters in my book is called The Old Dope Peddler, because with all due respect, I have very little respect for the psychiatric community and psych doctors. And there are a few good ones. I can't generalize, but most of them want to throw a pill at it, especially with anxiety. They're going to load you up with Xanax, Ativan, clonazepam. These are all benzodiazepines that in and of themselves create rebound anxiety. So it may work a couple of times or a few times, but eventually your body will crave it and it will create anxiety so you can have the pill. So now you got addiction on top of
Right.
anxiety. So,
Right.
and there's so many things like passion flower really helps you sleep.
Right.
People freak out about not getting us enough sleep. You're all right. Don't worry so much. I challenge my clients. Don't sleep. Try not to sleep instead of worrying about sleeping
Yeah.
so much.
Right, because that in and of itself keeps you awake.
It gives
Right?
you anxiety
Right.
about sleeping.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are some extreme cases. So I have no problem with antidepressants, but neurofeedback can really help with that. The only issue with antidepressants is it's really helpful to get a lab test first to see what it is you're deficient in. So that you're not going to a doctor who's like, well, try Lexapro. Okay, that didn't work. Try Prozac. Okay, that didn't work. Let's add Abilify. And it's just like, I'm
Yeah.
not a lab rat. Let's look at it organically.
Thank you.
And I feel like it's the last resort, unless you're talking about severe personality disorders, and then we do need to take the edge off sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, when one of the things that the trauma specialist taught me, and how
Who
to,
is it? I'm so curious. Or you
well,
don't have to say.
she actually she works in Israel. She's
Okay.
on the ground there, and she's been working with hostage
Oh,
families
that's so
and survivors.
great. Good for her.
And she taught the butterfly
Tapping.
the tapping.
Yeah, we do tapping at the center.
Yeah, so she
Very
talks about
good.
tapping just to kind of like, move you out of that moment. And you can, and if you don't want to sit there and tap yourself like this, you can kind of do it on your leg, or you can,
Yeah, and there are places on your body where
Yeah.
the tensions. But remember, we're animals. And so I go back to what triggers you, Fluffy. You're going to pet. You want to,
yeah,
it's okay. You're okay. You're
Yeah.
going to soothe it through
Right.
its senses.
right, exactly. But I
love
think,
the power you must feel when you are able to learn the skills to self-soothe and then you do it, because then it's not because of some magical pill or some, special drink or medication. It's you have the power within yourself, and that is everything.
Yeah.
Because then I mean, that would just squash the anxiety immediately, because you're going to be okay and you know how to fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that, because I have 4 children, which every one of them, for different reasons, have had anxiety situations, which is completely foreign to me. I don't
Wow.
understand it. Of course, I've had to learn as much as I can, and my heart, as a mom, all I want to do is take it away.
Sure.
And then my mother, completely anxiety ridden. My husband is a musician. They're between OCD, ADD, ADHD, and
All
you
the
name it.
letters.
The more creative, I really feel like I'm surrounded by creative people, and it really goes hand in hand with that.
Yeah.
My husband says it's like a radio antenna that picks, when he writes songs, but it also is the same antenna that makes him feel like he can't move or he's 2 hours late for something. It's just all it's all
Yeah.
related. But it's so nice to hear that there are skills that can be taught to people to empower them to take care of this on their own.
Yeah,
know?
and that's what I love about the center is they are learning how to do it at home. Whatever works for you at the center, let's bring that into your home. That's actually the hardest thing, is getting people to take what they makes them feel good there and reincorporate it into their lives. But once they do, it's you're good to go.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
if you think about it, like I remember when I was a kid and I was traumatized, just living during war times, and there were things that used to just scare me as a child. And I remember like, car bombs or, just my dad always had, like an Uzi, a machine gun, pent up against the wall when I was a kid because he was in the army.
Yeah.
And I just remember there's certain visuals that used to make me scared. And I remember how I would soothe myself as a kid is I would rock.
Wow. Yes.
I would rock
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
And I would always rock myself like back and forth to just kind of calm myself down. So it's like even like as a kid, you instinctually know how to calm yourself down. How do you as an adult, you kind of let go of those things and you need to learn how to tap back into that like instinct.
Yeah, because kids do just naturally, they'll suck their thumb.
Yeah.
They'll do things that are
Right.
Yeah.
self-soothing. But then
Yeah.
as we get older, we want to think about we want to
Yeah.
think our way out of it.
Yeah.
And it's like scratching your head to itch your foot.
Yeah.
They're different parts of your body. Your emotions and your fears in the amygdala, limbic system, frontal cortex, whole other place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the therapy works better, because once you're calm, now we can do critical thinking. Now we can look at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell whether it's a lion or someone in a lion outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
Wow.
when you're triggered, it's just a lion.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really it's really a challenge because I think like as you get older and like as I said earlier, you just feel differently in your body and things don't work the same way and you start to kind of get down. How do you pull yourself out of that? And I know what I do. Barb and I talk about this all the time. Our sanctuary is our bathtub.
Oh, I love my bathtub.
So
Yeah.
when I'm feeling, really stressed or significantly tired, or I just want to check out from everything, I just want to go insular, I will draw a bath and I will pamper myself. I will put all
Yeah.
the oils in there. I will, light a candle or
Without a
whatever, or
doubt.
put my music on. Or
Right? So
I have
there's
a
four
fireplace.
senses right there. You've got the warm water.
Yes,
You've got the smell. You've got the candle. You've got the sound.
exactly.
That's why it's such a fabulous, relaxing experience. It quiets the brain because you're not distracted. You're in the moment.
Yeah. And it's also being able to recognize when you're feeling that way.
Yes.
To be able to say, okay, I'm feeling a bit shit right now. I'm going to do something to make myself feel better. So it's having that recognition and then making the effort to making a choice
Yes.
to do something about it.
And even as you get more adept at this, knowing what's going to get you into that, oh, I feel shit place before it happens, so that you're not running on empty, like, oh, my tank is low. So that you know how to keep your tank fairly
Yeah.
filled up, not full all the time, because
Yeah.
you are giving. People pleasing, such a great example of that. We have to be like fountains. If we give and we only give, we're like, we're empty.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take and we don't give and we're selfish, we're those stagnant algae, the spiders at the top, the mosquito
Yeah.
larva. But if we love ourselves enough to receive, so many people know how to give, but they're uncomfortable receiving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so when you know how to receive, you naturally give, because it's just this beautiful flow.
Yeah.
You had said before that there's a different type of or a different moment in your life with menopause and anxiety. How do you know what's hormones and what's, is it the same methodology to soothe yourself? Because when you have no hormones or you're going through
So true.
dips, how do you balance that?
Like, how
Because
do you recognize that it's not just anxiety or depression, that you're actually having a hormonal imbalance?
yeah,
Mhm.
like it is there something a different way that you approach
Yeah,
menopause?
I think so because I really attribute the the inner peace to be connected to spirituality. You know, for me, I see all the angels and everything. To me, the universe is my higher power. It is God. When I looked at the moon last night,
That
oh my
sounds like me.
God, it's just this natural frequency and aligning my body with that frequency of peace and love, and
Mhm.
it's an energy field. You can have those beautiful days where you're meeting all the right people, and you know when you're having the off days where this jerk man, and you have to adjust your frequency upwards with your senses, with your spirituality also. With menopause and teenagers,
I was going to say I
there's
have a preteen and
oh,
menopause, so it's like the hormone levels are
all over the
completely
place.
Yeah.
imbalanced.
That is more of a chemical thing. For myself, I can't take hormone replacement there because of genetic reasons. So, I've got the combination of the black cohosh and the
Yeah.
I don't
Maca
know
and
right,
Damiana.
all
Yep.
that's in there, the Dong Quai,
Yep.
all that. And that has helped me
Mhm.
along with the Prozac because that stuff did not touch. The Prozac, for some reason, for me, was my particular elixir.
Right.
With teenagers, one of the things, remember I was talking about understanding what's going on
Right.
makes things easier. So once people hit puberty, they are supposed to think their parents are idiots and they can do anything so that they will go to the next cave and procreate and hunt a mammoth. And just that at 13, 12, 13, that's what we are biologically designed to do. But now we want to live with our kids till we're 18 and higher education and all that. And it's a very difficult situation. And the reason why it also worked that the kids thought you were an idiot is that you were able to release your child. You were able to go to the next cave. You are being such a jerk right now.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, my baby, my baby. So hormones teach kids to be fearless and all-knowing and
Mm.
go out on their own. And parents who've already done that know you're a moron. Your brain has not totally developed yet, and it won't till it's in its mid-20s. So you've
Yeah.
got this give and take. So just knowing that, just knowing their defiance is part of who they are becoming, but also still holding your boundaries and guiding them as you feel a parent needs to guide their children and set up those rules, whether it's home by certain time or uh, they need that, even though they don't think they do. And so it's important to not take it personally.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you. It's
Mhm.
not what kind of parent you are. It's what they're going through. And each kid will go through it completely differently. There's a
Absolutely.
whole bunch of stuff in the book about nothing is personal. Nothing. Because you could say to the same kid, to three different kids, you guys want to go out for dinner? And one will be like, oh my God, I hate you. What? And the other one's like, oh yeah, can we go to so and so? And the other one's like, I don't care, whatever. I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. It's personal to them, though. So understanding who they are and
Mm.
their different needs and knowing that this is just a natural part of their independence.
How do you approach, uh, like, let's say you have a partner or a spouse or one of your friends, and you're seeing that they're having a lot of anxiety, depression, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How do you approach them and have them help them? How do you say to them, maybe you should seek some help for that?
Well, it's different for me do you mean in general or how do I personally
I mean,
in
in
general?
general, like if you have somebody, like, you have a friend or a husband or a
Right.
wife or whatever, and they're going through a hard time, how can you help them?
Sometimes it's just by listening and being there and not
Mhm.
trying to fix. Just
Mhm.
being like, I feel like you're hurting. I'm here. If you need help or you want someone to talk to, I'm here.
Mhm.
Uh, and then if it starts getting extreme where their lives are changing, so they're not going out as much, their worlds are getting smaller, they're eating too much, they're losing weight, they're not enjoying life the way they used to.
Mhm.
Um, just really approaching it with love and not judgment and
Yeah.
saying, have compassion for you. If your foot hurt, you would go to a foot specialist.
Right.
No ego. But your heart is hurting, your feelings are hurting. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. And you don't have to like the first person you meet with. If you don't like
Mhm.
someone,
Right.
forget it.
Mhm.
Go meet with someone else. I do recommend in person more than telehealth because
Yeah.
there's so much more that you feel. Like you
Right.
guys know, you do a Zoom thing.
I
So
hate doing
different
Zoom
than in
Yeah, you
interviews.
don't
person.
Yeah.
like it at all.
So
Yeah.
imagine, it's your
Yeah.
heart you're talking
Yeah.
about and they can't feel the energy. But just letting them know it's okay when they're
Mhm.
ready
Mhm.
to get help, and they should be proud of themselves for doing it. Like
Mhm.
really proud.
Mhm.
And they're entitled to be happy. They deserve happiness. So
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good advice. I mean, I think with couples, as you start to age together and things are changing and the dynamics are changing, women go through menopause. I think men go through it too.
They go through different stuff. They lose their
They
hormones and
definitely have, yeah.
yeah. I use two constructs at my center: capable adult self and wounded child. So, wounded child has nothing to do with age. If someone sued the bejesus out of you when you were 45, and then at 52, someone like drops some little hint that makes you feel like, uh-oh, your wounded child is going to react, and you may overreact to something that's not going anywhere. Childhood traumas, all that stuff that creates the wounded child. A lot of times couples get into places where they communicate through their wounded children. They come from an emotional place and they make requests and demands and they get wounded child back. No, I'm not going to. So getting familiar with your capable adult self, and I'll give you two quick examples. It was Valentine's Day one year, and we both agreed, like, who cares? We're not going to do the Valentine's Day thing. It's stupid. I went to the market. There was all this Valentine's Day stuff. I bought a bunch of stuff for my staff. I got so excited about it. And then I realized I need a tchotchke. I want a
I do care.
tchotchke. I want something.
Yeah.
As childish as that is. And I could have, at a different time in my life, gone into a resentment. Like, why do we even have this? Well, he should just do it. But I was able to call him up and say, okay, I think I need a tchotchke. and ask for it in a capable way, in an adult, non-emotional way. And he was like, you got it, sweetie. Tchotchke on the run. It'll be here when you get back.
Yeah.
Or one time I came home, I was late bringing home dinner. He was working in the garage, and I walk in with the sushi, and he explodes at me. He's pissed. And I just put the sushi down, and I went inside, and I was like, he is hungry. He is in a wounded place. I'm not even dealing with that right now. That has nothing to do with me. And I went and enjoyed the rest of my evening. And then once he collected himself, because we developed
like
this
my
form of
husband.
communication, he came in and he was like, I'm so sorry. That was crazy. That was out of line. So when you start to recognize
Yeah.
the wounded child in you and your husband, and understanding that always under anger, 100% of the time, is fear, right? It's a fight flight response. You
Right.
don't
Right.
love me, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What are they scared of? What is their wounded child scared of right now? Do they not feel important? Do they, whatever it is, then you can approach it in a more therapeutic or healing way. And also allow the moment to calm down. A lot of people feel like we have to solve it right now, and
Yeah.
that's just not always the way to go.
Yeah.
That's more anxiety.
Yeah.
I love that the whole that whole methodology, because that is very true in my relationship, my dynamic. Whereas my husband will have these like tantrums, and then he'll just
And he
like an hour
apologizes.
later, he must apologize to me 4,000 times, and I've gotten better because I used to be like, where is this coming from? What's going? Trying to figure it out.
Right.
Now I just like retreat to my bathtub or my room, or I call Daniela, or I do something, and I'm just like, such an asshole right now. And then he'll come in a few minutes later. I don't know who that was. That wasn't me. I apologize. I got invaded by
His
and
wounded child.
yes. Well, now I'll be able to say that.
Yeah.
In my brain, that's
Yeah.
exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
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 That's
For me,
really-
I'm busy plotting murder. If I walk in like that and I get that attitude, I'm like, how do I kill this person?
Because you take it personally.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I do. I take it personally. And that's I think that is the hardest part, is that I immediately think whatever, my wounded child must have done a lot of bad things, because I immediately take it as, what did I do?
Right.
Whether or not I did something wrong, immediately I go to, oh my God, what did I do? How can I fix this? I'm horrible. So I immediately take it very personally. I don't.
And I don't know if it's that you were a bad child or you were given messages that
Yeah.
things were your fault, and maybe
Yeah.
that's why you're
Yeah.
the peacekeeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. For me, it's
there.
always about, let's just smooth it over. Let's just keep the peace. No one needs to fight and get crazy.
Yeah, but people do need to
yeah.
communicate and get it
do.
out. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one-on-one so important. Like you fixing two other people's problems, no. Stay in your hula hoop.
That's
Very good advice.
very good advice. Stop trying to fix everybody.
Well, they just get mad at you.
Yeah.
And it's really between the two of them. They have to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Okay. Is there anything else any tools or anything else that we can give our listeners that we haven't touched upon, or should we just tell them to read the book?
Read the book. No, there's so many
I'm so
tools and
excited
they're
to read this
different for
book.
everybody. The
Yeah.
one thing I would really like to mention is the people who come to my center usually do so through insurance. But the way insurance works is they'll say, okay, you've had 24 days, you should be healed.
Right.
And then insurance throws you out, right? You're only allowed a
Yeah.
certain amount of time, or you just can't afford to come and you don't have the right insurance. So a year ago, I opened a charity because one of my clients was paying it forward. He's like, I want to give you like $12,000, because he had been thrown out and he had money, so it didn't matter to him. And he ended up raising $75,000. And I had to open up a charity called the Few Foundation, Pathways for Health and Emotional Wellness, PHEW, Few. We're a 501c3. And if anybody's looking to support mental health, that charity, if you go to fewmentalhealth.org and you have the ability to donate, you literally are saving people's
Wow,
lives.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And so that's a very important
great.
cause to me, because not everyone can afford.
Yeah, you're absolutely
The
right. A lot of
tools.
people probably don't go to therapy or don't seek help because they don't have insurance and they can't afford it. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
really
I mean,
important.
It's insane when you do go to psychiatrists or you take family members to psychiatrists. It's not covered by insurance, and it's $500 a clip. And I mean, my husband makes a lot of money. It's expensive. I don't care how much
Yeah.
money you make.
And then you just have a
And
drug addiction on top of your problem.
people that are working 40-hour, 50-hour weeks, that are working paycheck to paycheck, the last thing in the world they're going to think that they could do is afford to go get help. And what do usually is they drink.
Yeah.
You know, they self-medicate somehow. We need
Yeah, they gotta
soothing
numb.
and help. So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing, because it gets astronomical. And we actually have really good insurance, but it does cap you out per year. You know, it's like
Yeah.
$10,000 a year or $20,000 a year or whatever, and you hit that mark really quickly.
You're done.
So yeah. Thank you for that. That's great
Yeah,
to
no,
know.
thank you, because we're
I'll
right
tag
now
it
we're
when I post everything, and when Daniela
please,
posts,
Yeah.
we'll tag your
please,
charity
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's really important.
We
please,
will.
thank you.
Okay, so we always, switching gears,
Okay.
ask our guests to kind of share with us what is the one product that you can't live without?
Oh my God. The one product. I love my lavender. I really
That's
do.
awesome.
I love lavender. Just
Mhm.
love it.
I
I
do
love
too.
spreading it on my pillow. There's these little lavella capsules that are pure lavender. You can only take a couple a day. I don't take them that often, but my house was recently in the fire, and
Oh,
it just like I didn't get high, but it relaxed. I love lavender.
okay.
Yeah.
That's I
Great.
like that. That's awesome. And what is there one piece of advice that you kind of always live by?
Look for the micro joys. Look for the little things. You could be at a Thanksgiving table and everyone's fighting and the tension is high, and you can just look for the cranberry sauce that was so lovingly prepared
Mm-hmm.
and just take joy in that one little moment, because it's not about the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find micro joys all day long, you're going to have a good life. You're going to be happy.
Mm-hmm. I
And
love
so,
that. That's great advice.
Micro
okay,
joys.
good.
I love
Yeah.
that too.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Really good advice.
awesome.
Well, thank you, Laura.
Thank you,
so
ladies,
much.
for having me. Thank you
Just
for doing what you
amazing.
do.
Yeah, we're
we're
so
thank you for
happy.
doing what you do.
My
It's so
pleasure.
important.
Yeah.
Necessary. And
Really important.
yeah.
And I'm so glad that you had the time to come in person. Um,
yeah.
And how can people find you? What are your social handles, or is there a website?
So I'm so bad at the social handles, but if you Google The Missing Piece, PEACE, like peace of mind,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to come up. That's what you put into Amazon, or Laura Rhodes Levin. There's only one of that. So
Okay,
through that you'll find everything: the book, the foundation, the charity, the everything.
great. That's awesome. Okay, well, that does it for this episode of Honest AF Show. And we thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And if there are any products or subject matters that you want us to hit us up on our socials. Honest AF Show across the board. HonestAFShow.com is our website. Until next time, y'all take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
We obviously need to do a disclaimer here, so we want you to know we are not doctors or experts by any stretch of the imagination. We are just a couple of gals that are looking for magical products, procedures, and experiences. And in our quest, we will share our honest as fuck opinions with you. So please make sure before you try anything we talk about that you know your own restrictions and do so at your own risk. Do not blame us for any of your issues. We're just experimenting too.